call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order on April 11th, 2016. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is a construction contract award for Frederick Street Reconstruction Project. Carol,
Yes.
you are on.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's time to award a contract for Frederick Street, which is part of our FY15 grant. I gave you a letter on it. We did the procurement. We have a low bidder, and you have a recommendation to award to Amarillo. And that's what I'm here for.
Any questions from the board for Carol?
Carol, we've done work with them in the past,
Yes,
so they're reputable, no issues.
absolutely.
Okay, because I mean, in some things in life, you know, the cheapest thing isn't the best thing, so
I know.
figured I'd ask.
Actually, Amarillo does a lot of work. Even if they didn't get it, they probably would have been the one doing the job for another contractor.
Oh, so this sub out the sub sort of thing?
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, well, in that case, I will make a motion to award a contract to A.F. Amarillo and Sons Incorporated of Worcester, Mass. in the amount of $272,491,000, which represents the base bid in alternate one for the work comprising the reconstruction of Frederick Street and the paving and incidental work on Upper Davis Street in accordance with the plan specifications and contract documents prepared by CME Associates. The award of the contract to A.F. Amarillo and Sons Incorporated is further conditioned on 1, satisfactory references, 2, said awardee providing the town with evidence of insurance, and 3, of performance and payment bonds as stipulated in the contract documents.
Second.
And I did that, so you did not have to read it.
And I so appreciate it. A motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dogevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.
That's all I have. You just need to sign the notice of award, and I'm all set.
Good. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.
Next item is the vote to approve the contract with Bogarty, Harrison and Company for auditing services for fiscal years ending June 30th, 2016, 2017, and 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe Courtney included in your packets a copy of the contract. This is their standard contract. We've seen this before. I've also, I believe she also included the exemptions from Chapter 30B and on number 15, contracts for CPA services, and that is what is required to do our audit, is exempt. I do believe at certain times that we should go out and see, you know, competition, getting some prices, but I will tell you this price, I don't know of any other auditing firm at this time with municipal experience that could beat this price. Also, you know, with the situation we're going through here in town, with an acting town administrator, an acting town accountant, the part-time treasurer, all of that. Mr. Harrison and his associate, Mr. Bogarty, are very familiar with the town of Webster. We work very well together. They do a wonderful job for us, and it just makes the process go very smoothly. So it's my recommendation that we continue our relationship with Bogarty Harrison for the next 3 years.
Questions from the board?
Yes, if I could, through the chair, how often, how long have we had them as a firm? Has it been 3 years?
Yes. It's been 6. Yeah. This will be their second renewal.
They've always done a really good job.
Absolutely.
I'll make a motion that we continue our relationship with Bogarty and Harrison for our auditing services.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dogevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes. Next item is vote to approve the Police Fire Station Building Committee's request for the use of town council.
So, Mr. Chairman, the Board of Selectmen did adopt a town council use policy several months ago, and pursuant to that policy, this is a request from the Police Fire Station Building Committee to use town council, and that was a unanimous vote of those present last Thursday, maybe, was it? Yes, last Thursday. We have a situation that we're dealing with over at the police station, and we feel at this time we've tried everything else, and it's time now to use council to try and take care of this issue.
Any questions from the board? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request by the Police Fire Station Building Committee to use town council.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is this is limited to one issue? That's right, Mr. Becker?
It is, yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
is it fair to say what the issue is?
Generally, yes,
Yeah, I
because
mean-
Right,
I'm sure we'll
I
be
mean-
discussing it further.
Yeah, we just don't want to open it up so that they can use it.
No, this is
Anytime,
one
this is it.
specific
One-
issue that is outstanding at the police station that we need counsel now to.
Okay.
We need some muscle.
Any other discussion?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dolgevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes. Next item is Doran Kraus and Michael with the water quality update. Want to come forward?
Selectman Jolda had requested an update on the water quality, and where we are and where we're going. And also, we thought at this time, with the requests for the authorization for the water treatment plant construction on the annual town meeting warrant, we thought we'd bring in representatives from Ty and Bond so that they could bring you up to date on where we are with that also.
Yes, good evening. Michael Schrader was unable to attend tonight, so we have Tom Mahana on my far left and Jeff Faulkner from Ty and Bond representing Mike. What I would like to do, if it's acceptable to the board, just to give a brief overview of what's happening locally with the flushing and the pigging, then turn it over to Jeff and Mike to explain the further details of the water filtration facility. As you all know, we did the ice pigging last November, and that has had tremendous beneficial results. The 3 months prior to the ice pigging, we had a total of 430 dirty water calls. The 3 months after, we had a total of 50. So it's been a substantial benefit to the town's water quality. Now, as time has moved further and further away from the date of the ice pigging, the number of calls did start to escalate, which is indicative to me that material is still precipitating out in our pipes, hence the need for the filtration facility. On March 28th, we started our hydrant flushing program, and as a result of that, the number of dirty water calls increased dramatically. But it seems that the higher number of calls was earlier on in the initiation of the program, and they seem to be tapering off right now. We're hopeful that will continue, but I certainly can't promise that. We're currently in the middle of Zone 1 for the hydrant flushing program of the 6 total zones. We expect another 6 weeks or so for that program to be completed. We are still also working on ice pigging for this upcoming fiscal year. During the last one, we did the Lake Street area and its side streets. This year, we want to continue up Ray Street, Park Ave, Second Island, Hillside, and those are the areas that had the next largest number of dirty water or colored water calls. So we're basically expanding from what we did before, trying to hit the highest impacted areas, and then in subsequent years we can follow up from there. We're expecting that to be August or September in the time frame. If there are no questions for me, I'll turn it over to Tom and Jeff.
Okay, good evening. As you're aware, the town decided to move forward with treatment design for the Memorial Beach wells. Ty and Bond is proceeding with the design of that. In February, a treatment trailer, a pilot trailer was brought to the site and confirmed that the water in Webster at the Memorial Beach wells can be effectively treated by filtration. We're currently preparing a pilot report which needs to be submitted to the state. We anticipate submitting that at the end of April. And then a preliminary design report will be prepared towards the end of June. And then the full design will proceed over the summer and fall. Hopefully with design concluding at the end of this calendar year and moving into the bidding and construction phase next year.
And so I'd like to just add, Mike Schrader and I had a conference call this afternoon with DEP regarding the SRF program. So we spoke with Steve McCurdy and Ashraf Gabor also. We wanted to kind of bring them up to date and tell them that the town is interested in trying to accelerate the schedule that we presented at town meeting last fall. I just wanted to get some feedback from them on what they thought. First of all, what's this project's chances of getting funding, and any concerns we need to know about upfront, schedule, things like that. So the way it typically works with the SRF, as you may be aware, what's called the project evaluation forms will come out probably at the beginning of summer, usually around June. They have a due date of mid-August. And so once those applications get in, and we're hoping to get yours in early, they'll review all the applications, and sometime around October, November, they'll issue their draft intended use plan. And so at that point, we'll have a pretty good idea whether or not you're on the list. And if you're on that draft list, very good chance you'll remain on the final funding list. So the final list will come out the end of the year, and then we'll proceed into the next phase of the project, which would be to submit the financial application. So we asked the state to see kind of what their expectations are for funding, available funds this year. It's going to be very similar to what they've seen in the last couple of years. They expect that the total funding or financial assistance package will probably be around $100 to $110 million, which will be available throughout the state for all projects submitted. Obviously, everything will depend on the projects, applications that they receive. But typically, these types of projects, these water treatment plant projects, usually do very well. It's a rating system. The projects get rated based on certain criteria, and obviously, if it's addressing a water quality issue, these types of projects usually score very well. So we anticipate this project doing very well, but nothing. Of course, they couldn't certainly guarantee us that this project would receive funding. They did say one kind of wild card that's just come up within this last 6 months or so is, as you may all been seeing on the news, what's been going on out in Flint, Michigan has kind of caused a lot of concern throughout the country regarding lead pipe, and so they're not sure right now what projects may be trying to submit applications to deal with lead pipes in their system. So that could have a little bit of an impact on what other projects get submitted and how the available funds get used up for those types of projects. But when we explained that we're looking at a project in approximately the $10 million range, they said that these types of projects usually should do fairly well with the funding. So we're optimistic that this project will score well and we'll stay on that track. And we explained that we hope to be completed, as Jeff said, with design and being able to bid and start construction by this time, or probably June 1st or so of 2017. So just basically about a year from now.
Questions from the board?
In the prior year, what was the largest amount of grant that was given? And secondly, are we talking then just low interest rate loans for this?
Yes, you probably will only be getting a low interest loan. You may get, we did ask about the possibility of some loan forgiveness. And again, that's depending on what is available through the federal program. So there might be an opportunity for some some loan forgiveness for this. But as far as the size of the projects, there are some very large projects. A single project can only take up so much of the available funding. So if a $100 million project comes in, it can't take the entire amount that's available for that entire year. So they cap those limits on what a single project can take, and I figure it might be like 6 million or something like that. I'm not exactly sure the details of that,
But it sounds like we're talking, as we had in the public hearing, more of a low-interest loan.
low interest on about a 2%
2%,
loan.
that's what an SRF loan is. And we have been eligible in the past for principal forgiveness. Rossin
Right.
Road, we did, in our, the wastewater treatment facility also, we were eligible and received principal forgiveness.
Yeah, you would be eligible for principal forgiveness, but there's no guarantees with what the actual dollars are pending, what the applicants are.
So through the chair, I'll direct this towards Doran because you know our system probably more intimately than anybody who's ever been in this town before. Obviously, you guys are referencing, Flint, Michigan and lead pipe issues, and I kind of just want to get this out there for a public safety thing that although the pipes we have are old, they are all basically old cast iron, and the testing that we do does look for heavy metals such as lead and other things that would be unsafe.
Yes, we certainly do analysis for lead, copper, the toxic materials. But I do want to point out, the lead that they're talking about, it does not come from the material that the water mains are constructed of. Lead is typically found either in lead solder for copper pipes or in old lead service lines that run from the street into the property. In my evaluations of our service cards, I have not come across one. And I know one of my predecessors had to develop a sampling plan that evaluated the worst case lead services in town, and he had difficulty finding them. I can't flat out say there are none in town, but there are very few. Now, there could be a small number of what they call goosenecks, a bent piece of pipe that goes from the water main and connects into the service line. That's about 12 inches long. There are some of those in town, but as we find them, we remove them.
Good, yeah, I just kind of wanted to clarify that so somebody doesn't catch the buzzword lead and then we have another problem on our hands, so thanks for clarifying that.
And as far as the cleaning and lining, we have said all along that this is a multi-pronged process, a multi-step process. The flushing will continue, that's a maintenance effort. The pigging is something that we fund with current dollars in our plant improvements capital line in the budget. Cleaning and lining, Selectman Dogevich brought up seeking funding from the state. I did have a meeting with a representative from Senator Fatman's office and asking me if there were any earmarks. I don't know if that's the correct word, but earmarks, what we would be interested in seeking earmark funding for, and I told them specifically water, to address our water quality issues, and that being cleaning and lining program. It is included in our water CIP. That's very expensive, extremely expensive. I think we have got out there all along that this plant is required in order to address our water quality issues. We can do all the rest, but if we don't build this plant, it's not going to be taken care of. So it is on the annual town meeting warrant, seeking the funding. Again, with the request that if there's any SRF funding, if we are approved, that it be funded through the 2% loan, so.
So just one more thing I'd like to add too. Doran, you had mentioned that the first round of ice pigging was kind of Lake Street and the surrounding areas.
Correct.
Now we're kind of hopped over to the other side. Is it safe to assume that the water tank is kind of the central area of a really heavy concentration? Because to me, it sounds like we're getting sediment, it's settling, and then it's distributing in the closest areas.
Actually, the day one of the next round of ice pigging will actually start at the Park Road water tank, flush down Park Road to the Memorial Beach plant, and then work its way up Park Ave. So we have taken that into consideration as a prime area of potential sedimentation. So we are looking at that, and we will address that.
So hopefully what we'll be able to see based on your metrics was that the ice pigging kind of loosened everything up from the calcified stuff. Now we'll have another round of the unidirectional flushing, flush out any sediment that settled over the winter, and hopefully this will be our best summer yet.
Yes,
kind of what we're
we're
looking
hoping
for.
that will be the case, and I'm real interested to see when we get to the Lake Street area how fast those lines clean up, because we have the track record from the flushing programs in the past as to how long Lake Street and the side streets took to clear up, so I'm really interested in this time.
So I guess the reason I'm bringing it up is because I know a lot of people still aren't overly sold on the idea of the water filtration plant. They still believe we need to dig up every mile of pipe in the city, in the town, which is not feasible.
Correct.
But also, too, from what I've learned and what you're telling me here, which based on the information of the water tank, it doesn't seem that would fix the problem because it would still settle to the bottom of even a new pipe.
Yes, it would.
And that, that's the highest concentration of water there. We need the plant.
Yeah, we in the water department, we use the expression of longitudinal clarifiers, our water pipes. And it's unfortunate to have to use that expression, but that is the factuality. With the treatment that we have to do per regulations, it has created the ideal environment for iron and manganese to precipitate out.
Great. Well, you guys are doing great work. Thanks for clarifying that. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And right now, we all have to bear in mind that we are using one station for our main source, Station 3. And I know it keeps Doran up at night, it keeps me up at night, if something happens to that station. What building this plant where it's proposed to be built down at Memorial Beach, that will allow us to bring all 5 wells back online at Station 1 and to bring Station 2 back online and then use Station 3 as a backup. So this is all, because right now we're limited. We only have 2 wells at Station 1 and Station 2 is completely offline.
Any other questions? Thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is the approval of special and annual town meeting warrants.
So I passed them out to you with the updated agenda that we had posted. How would you like to proceed, Mr. Chairman?
The
Go through
ones
each one of
I think
them?
that were... Why don't we just go through each one of them real quick? You don't have the cheat sheet, John's cheat sheet?
No, I'm sorry, I don't. I can
No,
do.
we can go through the special first.
Okay, so our Article 1 is to hear and act upon the report and recommendations of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. Do we want to go through them all and then take a vote at the end? Okay. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the treasury, a sum sufficient to the town administrator. I don't think I have to read them.
No.
So Article 2 is general fund unpaid bills. Article 3 would be funding sewer fund unpaid bills. And Article 4 is funding water unpaid bills. I am only aware of general fund unpaid bills at this time. But these are on here in case there are some that I am not aware of yet. We want to make sure we have the articles on the town meeting warrant. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $146 from the town report printing and copying account to the town report overtime account. This is the deficit in the salary line. And again, the town of Webster, we approve our budget based on subtotals, personnel, expense, capital. So we're transferring money from the expense line into a personnel line. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $2,500 from the Harbor Master overtime account to the Harbor Master boat maintenance account. The Harbor Master has sufficient funds in his personnel account to get us through June. Once we open for the season and the boats needed some extraordinary maintenance this year.
He didn't hit bottom again, did he?
I plead the fifth. No, I don't know. I don't know. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to transfer from any available funds in the treasury a sum sufficient to the Code Enforcement Director of Planning and Economic Development salary account or take any action thereon. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer from any available funds in the treasury a sum sufficient to the Health Services Health Agent salary account or take any action thereon. I am going to be asking the Board of Selectmen, and again, I've said this before, I'm going to be asking the Board of Selectmen to make some personnel changes, some appointments. If those appointments are not approved by the Board of Selectmen, then these two articles will be passed over. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury a sum sufficient to the election workers account. Article 10 is the elections printing and copying account. Again, on the agenda, there is discussion and potential vote for a special election. If the Board of Selectmen choose not to hold that special, or request that special election, these two articles will be passed over. They will not be necessary. Articles 11, 12, and 13. As I have said, the senior center, this is their first year of operation in our new facility, and the budget this year was kind of a guess. We didn't guess very well. We need additional funds in these three accounts: electricity, heating, fuel, and telephone. We have made the adjustments for the fiscal 17 budget. Article 14.
Hang on one second. Do we want to take a vote on Article 1 through 13?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.
Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury the sum of $3,499 for the purchase of a CDR crash data retrieval DLC base kit with software. This is equipment that the police department, they've put on several town meeting warrants. It's been taken off because we didn't have the funding available. I am going to try and find funding available from within this year's budget to fund this. Because the price did go up. The longer we wait, the price will continue to go up. So this is a tool that would be very beneficial to the police department in their duties. Article 15, yes, we did overspend snow and ice. I know it's hard to believe. Not our overtime account or our vendor account. However, our snow and ice supplies account, we did overspend. So that's to raise and appropriate or transfer $75,000. The reason for this, I know people are probably saying, what, we didn't have any snow. But we do enter into a cooperative bid for our purchase of our salt, that Clear Lane product this year. And we are required to purchase at least a minimum. We purchased only our minimum. And along with other expenses, we only appropriate a total in those three accounts of $155,000 a year, so.
For comparison purposes, how much did we spend the prior year?
Last year, we overspent $260,000. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury a sum sufficient to the unemployment compensation account. Again, the general fund, we appropriate a certain amount of money, and transfer it to our unemployment compensation fund. I did pay through, I believe, February, and additional funds are needed in order to pay for the rest of the fiscal year. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury the sum of $150,000 to replace 2 sections of roof on the Thompson Road Fire Station or take any action thereon. These were alternates on the bids that were received for the renovation to the fire station, and we did not have enough money to fund that alternate. This is a very important piece of the entire project. Unfortunately, like I said, there wasn't sufficient funds available, but it really is something that needs to be done in order to finish up that project down at the fire station. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from any available funds in the Treasury a sum sufficient for the purpose of funding repairs and repaving of the Bartlett High School grounds, including driveways, sidewalks, and entrances, and to provide directional signage throughout the campus or take any action thereon. This might be deja vu to some people. We did have an article last year similar. This is to complete the project. They did a portion of the project. This is done in cooperation with our own highway department, which saves them a lot of money. Our own highway department has the ability to pave They did that for the school department last year, and this is to finalize the project up there at Bartlett.
Articles 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. What's the pleasure of the board?
I have one quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
On Article 17, if town meeting so decides to not fund that, what is the contingency plan? Is that critical to the completion of the fire department building, would be my understanding?
Mr. Becker, do you want to?
No, I think
I just don't know enough about what that actually is, I think is what I'm trying to ask, I guess.
I think the renovation is pretty much going to be complete, with the exception of the roof. So, we've put sprinkler systems in, we've put exhaust systems in, so I think the issue is if you don't take care of that roof, rather than dealing with buckets, and all the equipment obviously in the fire station, it needs to be done, so. It was the wish of the committee to complete this. We
Right.
just simply ran out of funds.
Right.
Got it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is your motion to approve the 14 through 18?
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dogevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes. Now on to the annual.
The annual town meeting warrant. Article 1, to hear and act upon the report and recommendations of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. Article 2, this is the general fund budget for fiscal 17. Article 3 is the sewer enterprise fund budget for fiscal 17. Article 4 is the water enterprise fund budget for fiscal 17. Article 5 is a standard article on the annual town meeting warrant. This allows the treasurer to interfund borrow during a fiscal year. Article 6 is to create and/or continue revolving funds under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half for fiscal year 2017. These are all continuations other than, I will call your attention to the last two. Inspectional Services Revolving Fund. We've spoken about this. We have removed the part-time inspectors' stipends that were formerly in the general fund budget, and we recommend an Inspectional Services Revolving Fund where the part-time inspectors are paid with fees, the fees that they generate. Municipal Hearing Officer, this is a pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 148A, and I believe 115. Municipal Hearing Officer hears people who have issues with inspectional services if they issue fines or the fire department. I apologize for stumbling. This is new to me, but, and this is something that is pursuant to Mass General laws. They require a revolving fund. That individual who does that is paid $2,500. That is required by law for this person to be paid. There is a very rigorous training that they do have to go to, and they have to maintain CEUs and go to follow-up training. So that is something that the building commissioner and the fire chief wishes to have done. Article 7, I'm not going to read it, but this is the authorization for the water filtration plant, the water treatment plant.
We can stop at Article 7.
1
Wanna
through
take a
7,
vote?
I'll move
So-
approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Courtney, not Courtney, no. Pam?
Pam, thank you. Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dogevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.
Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from any available sums in the treasury an amount sufficient to fund the purchase of technology devices for Bartlett High School and Webster Middle School, or take any action thereon. Article 9, to see, these articles were submitted by petition by the individuals or the departments, or the citizens.
Oh,
Ar-
go ahead.
Okay. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to designate the second Sunday in August as National Scouting Day in honor of the first Eagle Scout in America, Arthur Eldred, who obtained the rank of Eagle Scout on August 21st, 1912. In honor of this day, the town of Webster will provide active Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts with current membership cards free access to the Webster Memorial Beach on the designated Scouting Day. That's being sponsored by the town moderator. Article 10, again, I won't read it, but this is to seek the approval of a full liquor license for Capellini's on Worcester Road. That is a citizen's petition. And another citizen's petition to see if the town will vote to require all approved minutes of all town boards, committees, commissions to be posted to the Town of Webster website. And again, it references the website as part of the public record in addition to any other present locations.
So for Article 10 and Article 11, do we want to refer to sponsor?
Why don't we make Article 8, 9, 10, and 11 refer to sponsor?
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
In the way of discussion, aren't the majority of our meeting minutes online anyway? I'm pretty sure they are. I mean, granted, there's no stipulation of how soon thereafter they need to be put there, so theoretically, you could post them 2 years later and still be in compliance with the bylaw, but I guess we'll refer to sponsor.
Mr. Chair, I'm sponsoring that article. Not all.
Do you want to come forward? Not to step on your shoes, but if you want to talk to your article. Sorry.
No, it's good.
A little easy back to vacation.
Earl Gabor, I'm sponsoring that article. Not all, excuse me, not all the minutes are on the website. There are many committees that are not appearing on the website. Speaking to the town clerk, they have to be submitted, it's more procedural, they have to be submitted to him and also to Greg to get on to the, and that's not happening with all committees.
Okay.
So this is just to unify it, make it a process.
Have you ever had any problems getting any minutes from any of the committees?
Oh, no,
okay.
no, going to the clerk's office, no.
Okay.
I'm just trying to unify, to take advantage of the technology, to have everything in one place for all committees. That- It's 24-hour access, and some committees do it and some don't. So that's all.
Good. Any other questions from this?
No, I think it's a good idea. I think the only question I have is for the town clerk as to what additional work, if any, it would require. I don't know if you've spoken with the town
I
clerk.
have spoken with them, and again, the process would have to be cleaned up, but now it's up to each committee's secretary to submit copies to both those locations, where some are only doing it to one, some are doing it to,
And
they're
that-
all doing it to the town clerk, but not every committee is doing it to the, to Greg.
And that would continue. There's no requirement in here for the town clerk to,
Right, it's more a requirement for all committees to submit whatever mechanism you work out.
Mr. Robert, right, to the IT.
I mean, to me, that seems like that could also be a procedural thing that the board could just correct on our own by implementing a policy for all committees of the town to follow, to submit copies of their approved meeting minutes to both Greg and the town clerk for publication.
They're required to give them to the town clerk.
Correct.
They're not required
To give
to
them,
give them, and it doesn't, the town clerk does not
Pass it on.
pass it on to the IT department, so it's kind of a disconnect there. So
Yeah.
we're trying to close that loop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, whether it's procedural.
See Greg shaking his head back there and seeing more work. Thanks, Greg.
All right, thanks. Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Then for Article 10, I know we've done this in the past for other locations, I know, for the Mexicali, when they went to their for their full liquor license, because the town's overcapacity for our all alcohol, all year licenses, they have to do special act of legislation if they want to get it. So I know we've done this in the past for other locations.
And just to be clear, I realize there are some typos, but with citizens petition, we are required to put them on the warrant exactly how they are submitted, so. All set?
Yep.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dugevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bohr?
Yes. Does this have to be read? No.
No,
No,
it's
okay.
for
I just-
discussion.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda was the Board of Selectmen's discussion and vote for special election for the purpose of a Proposition 2.5 override for fiscal year 2017 general fund operating budget.
So the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and representatives from the school department met Thursday evening. And there was discussion regarding the school department's budget and a potential for a special election for a Prop 2.5 override. The school department submitted an amount, that being approximately $748,000, I believe it was $747,400 to be exact. Additional to the $850,000 above this year's appropriation, what is included in the recommended fiscal 17 budget. This is in addition to that. Several of you were at that meeting. If you want to talk about your take from that meeting. What I did when I left there was, and I thought that was my charge after the discussion, was to put together the priorities for the town. I had an emergency department head meeting on Friday morning, met with the department heads, and you'll see here the 3 items that we've prioritized on our side. Again, this is above and beyond what is already in the balanced, what will be the proposed, it's currently draft, fiscal 17 budget. On the town side, that being $112,000, and that's for the purposes of funding 2 additional full-time police officers. $99,000, and that is for the purposes of funding fire station coverage between the hours of midnight and 7 a.m. Sunday through Saturday. Currently, there is a gap there in coverage. Other than that, we have full-time coverage at the fire department, but there is that gap between midnight and 7 a.m., 7 days a week. And an additional $46,000 for the purpose of funding 1 additional highway position. Currently, there are 7 members of our highway, 2 Parks Division employees, for a total of 9. Adding 1 would bring our Highway Parks Division up to 10. The school department, as I said, their original request was $747,400. In conversations this morning, they have decreased that to $738,000. The total of all 4 of these requests is $995,000.
You got a figure on how that's going to affect the tax rate on
If-
each house?
If all 4 are approved, and I'm using $1 million as a round
Right.
figure, for $1 million, that's 68 cents on the tax rate, on the residential tax rate. And the assessor provided me with some information today. A median household in Webster went up a little bit from $175,000 to $182,000. And our average stayed the same, we say $225,000. But the median is a $182,000 home. For that home, it's about $123 a year, about $31 a quarter.
Is that for the 182?
That is for the 182, for $1 million.
And the amount again?
Approximately $31 a quarter, $123, give or take, for the year. That's what that increase would be. Again, last year, we did talk about the override that was in June last year. It was classified as a pyramid override. It was extremely confusing for many of us, in addition to people going out to vote. What is being proposed this year, these 4 questions, this is considered a menu override. There are 4 separate and distinct questions on the ballot. They stand alone. Yes or no on each one, they stand on their own merits. So if you want to vote the $738,000 for the school and no to everything else, then that's it. If you want to vote no to everything, you can. If you want to vote yes to everything, you can. If you just want to fund $46,000 for an additional highway position, no to everything except yes to that one. So they stand alone on their own merits, each one of these questions.
Through the chair, I think this is very organized. I like the way that it's almost like voting at town meeting. My only question is, are we allowed to put any literature with the votes to explain why we want these things, or no?
We can provide factual information. I did attach to this draft election warrant my calculations for these numbers with the 2 police officers on the first page, and the second page, the 2 firefighters for that 7-hour shift, and 365 days in the year, and then the highway worker for 1 year. We are limited with what we can do. We can't pro and con, but we can provide all the facts for everyone to make a very, informed decision when they get into the ballot.
Right, from, my view here is, most people don't understand, the size town that we have with, say, police calls for service, the amount of officers we have, and just what they're dealing with. So at least having those metrics might help someone decide if that's something else they want to spend money on. Same thing with highway. I mean, obviously, we here all know how hard those guys worked, especially last year, probably not even sleeping, trying to catch up and plow snow. So at least giving them as many facts as possible so we don't end up with an uneducated and confusing election cycle.
I have pursued with partnering the town. I'm trying something different this year. I was approached by Smart Shopper, and we're partnering with them on their April 27th, I believe, edition will be a Town of Webster edition of their Smart Shopper. It'll be a guide that people can keep, and we're going to have all kind of information in there. We're going to have information about our rec programs for the summer, our summer concert series, our beach, things that are available there, information about beach rules and regulations, compost facility, our town meetings, when they are, and a bunch of other information that people can keep all about the town. If this works out well, we'll probably do it in the spring and in the fall for our fall and winter activities and for our fall town meeting and all of that. And we could utilize a couple of pages in that Smart Shopper guide, in that edition. If the board votes to pursue this special election, we can use that to get information out to the voters also.
Part of the discussion at the last meeting was quite a write-up with regards to what the school was looking for and what would be funded for this, and clearly there was a need. Of course, the way it's written here, makes it very difficult to understand that. The other 3 articles, it's pretty understandable what you'd get for the monies. So how does the school, for instance, do we have a public hearing so that people can better understand, what are they going to get? What is the school in need of? How does the school department in particular get the word out that it makes sense in their minds to spend this money?
Again, I think it would be beneficial to utilize that Smart Shopper edition to get the word out. I know that the school department, I believe tomorrow evening, they are holding their public hearing on their budget to get the word out. And I know that they partner with their parent organizations and other organizations within the school system to get the word out for them. Because
they
we are, as municipal officials and elected officials, we are limited on what we can do. They do partner and utilize their parent organizations to do that for them.
Yeah, didn't they send home letters last year or something, or they had some sort of correspondence?
I'm not sure how they,
Yeah, because I thought, I mean, obviously I don't have any kids in the school system, but I thought that I had heard that maybe they had sent letters home, or one of those organizations had, so maybe through a grassroots movement, that way they were getting a hold of people.
Again, I wasn't sure if there was a public hearing, then
Yeah.
you could put it on the public access channel,
Mhm.
and people could see it that way. I just don't know if you didn't have that public hearing, you really can't put anything, I think, on the public access channel. We certainly can't, go out in favor of any particular item,
correct.
proselytize for that.
Correct. But what they did give us, the paperwork, the documentation they gave us the other night, that can be made available,
okay.
absolutely. That was the facts. Here is what you will get for the money. Absolutely, we can provide that.
Because I think clearly, our last override attempt, that's where, I admit that, I wish I would have done a better job with that, explaining it to the people what you were getting for it, because it was very confusing.
Yes.
One thing we didn't mention, we mentioned the $123 on the median, $182,000. What is the tax bill for the $182,000 today? Do we know what the annual tax bill is? So we can get a percentage change, or maybe we can put that in our information.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the average tax bill for that $182,000 median house?
Yes,
And what does the 123 represent?
okay, I can get that.
In the way of, in just looking at the numbers, and kind of prorating this 123, you kind of get around a $90 impact on the first item, a $14 or so impact on the second item, maybe 12 or 13 for the third item, and maybe $6.
That sounds like an insurance premium right there.
Yeah.
My comprehensive is another $6.
Which you should buy. But it is kind of an à la carte approach. I
That's
think
a
the
very
approach
good
is very
idea, yeah.
good, because people can then choose what they
I think it's
what they
clearer,
want.
and the way I wrote, again, it's a little more general for the school, because of course, it's the school and they can spend their money the way they see fit. For us, when you go into that booth, you know exactly what you're going to get for your money. This is what you're going to get. If you say yes to the 2 additional police officers, that's what you're going to get for your money. I tried to make it as specific as possible.
So Pam, they're meeting tomorrow. It is a public hearing, isn't it?
It's their budget public hearing, from what I understand,
And I
correct?
believe they can broadcast from Park Ave, right? So that
Correct.
should, yeah,
Yes.
so that should be on there, okay.
It's gonna be up to them to sell it to their people.
Well,
The
Correct.
school
That- and-
department,
and they-
that's what
they do-
that's
yeah.
what they're looking for. They're gonna have to let people know what it's gonna be used for, and, sell it to
Yeah,
the
and
town.
I think it's
Yeah.
important from the meeting we just had, we talked about costs going up 4 or 5% a year, and then Proposition 2.5, revenue only going up 2.5% a year. So there's this constant gap that can never get filled. And I think it's important for people just to remember that.
Right, again, we are not a community that has, excess levy capacity available to us. We do tax to the max every year. I do try explaining to people that, many of our residents and many people across the country, especially our elderly, are on fixed incomes, but we, the town of Webster, are on a fixed income also. We are limited by what we can spend every year, Prop 2.5. New growth, whatever we may get in new growth, that's it. And our costs are exponentially higher than that. Our fixed costs, just our fixed costs alone, are exponentially higher than that. And you can see that in I think the budget that I presented, where I've shown what the difference is in our departmental spending from this fiscal year 16, and then what is budgeted for fiscal 17. They're either level funded or some are below, and again, there are some adjustments that we want to make to continue to move forward, the town forward, and those are those departments that have been targeted this year. Again, if the board does call for the special election this evening, and if this does not pass, that nothing passes, we do have a balanced budget, and we will be going forward with a balanced budget. Now, if we could just talk about the timeline, on Friday morning I sat down and discuss timeline. I contacted the town clerk, and we talked about the Board of Selectmen has to give the town clerk at least a 35-day notice for a special election. We are recommending Wednesday, and I see that this is wrong right here. That's wrong. Wednesday, May 18th. Again, that's a Wednesday. And so what we would recommend is on May 9th, when we go into town meeting, that we go through the special town meeting and we dispense with all of those articles and close that town meeting, adjourn that town meeting. And then the annual town meeting that we open and immediately adjourn to a date and time certain, that being what our recommendation would be Monday, June 6th at 7 p.m. Again, so the special election Wednesday, May 18th, here in the auditorium in the town hall. And then we will recommend that the annual town meeting be immediately opened, immediately closed. We won't take up any of the articles, and to adjourn to June 6th at 7 p.m.
And those dates would be conditional upon the Board of Selectmen choosing to support the Proposition 2.5 override issue, correct?
Correct. If you do
Tonight.
take a vote this evening to call for the special election, then this is what we're recommending for the timeline.
Any other questions from the board? What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of supporting the Proposition 2.5 override.
Second, especially the.
Motion has been made and seconded. Yes?
Can I ask a question
Sure.
on this process, or is it closed?
Sure, come right forward.
Bob Whitelife sent some of you an email, and it's nice to see you all face to face for a change, instead of just via email. On the override, maybe to answer one of the questions, it was asked about taxes and impact on taxes. And from the 2012 budget through last year, 2016, my taxes have gone up over 35%. That's a fact. And that was verified by the former town administrator. Significant repairs to our property? Yes. We replaced 60-year-old windows. We put siding on the house to try and get it maintenance-free. Those are our expenditures. But as the 2.5 goes up, also the price of the property evaluation also goes up. So it's not quite as simple as 229 or whatever that particular number might have been when you start talking about an override. And while the town is on a fixed income, a lot of people in this town are also on a fixed income. And whatever the discussion, however this vote goes on budget, override, whatever, I have to live within my budget. I have to find the money to pay the town when that tax bill comes in. End of discussion. You're not going to say, you're excused. I have to live within my means. And I think so has the town. So has the town. And I think the school department is an area that you folks don't control. Possibly maybe a little bit out of control. But I think if you look around and see how many people are here tonight in regard to this important issue, the lack of communication that comes out of town as far as these meetings to get the voters informed as far as what's going on. And then you wonder why people get upset, because all of a sudden it's thrust there. I didn't hear all the articles, but apparently there was an article in regard to minutes being posted. I've tried to find information online to try and get educated as far as what's going on. The Board of Selectmen, the last minutes posted, were from January 26th of this year. This is totally off the side, but it supports what it's talking about. Finance Committee, January 14th of this year. School Committee, they just posted minutes of, on April 6th of this year. For middle of the year 2015 through March 8th. School committee meetings. There's 2.5 years, no minutes were posted. Now, I was not aware that I could go to the town clerk's office to get minutes. I was not aware of that. But the technology is there, that there's really no excuse, no reason, in my mind, why these can't be posted in some kind of manner so that so the voters that want to take the time to get informed can do so. Very simple. I guess the vote tonight, I had a family commitment. I could not make the Finance Committee meeting, which I desperately wanted to do last week. The previous one, a week ago, was canceled. It was rescheduled for this week, or last week. The cancellation was posted on the town website. However, the rescheduled meeting never was. So unless you chase that information down, you had no idea that meeting was, that had been rescheduled. Somewhere in the school, in the minutes that were posted tonight, or last week, or 3 days ago on the school committee site, they had there that there was going to be a joint meeting, Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, last Thursday. That was posted March 6th. So whatever happened to postpone a meeting and it wasn't posted to be rescheduled, who knows? So I'm not sure why a vote has to be taken tonight to do this, because to try and go through all the information of the town budget, a school budget, and come up with any intelligent questions to ask is darn near impossible for an average voter. It's impossible. And if you want support for these things, somewhere along the message has got to get out there. A year ago on the 2.5, there was an April meeting at the high school, and the process was explained as far as what's going on with 2.5. Is that going to happen this year? Didn't sound like it was. Didn't sound like it was from where I was sitting. But I think that's important if you want voter support. Also, why the election is in the middle of May. I don't understand why it's the bare minimum 35 days. I understand the state law, but why we're pushing that. A year ago, it was the middle of June, which gave everybody enough time in town to find out that this was even going on. And again, I use the example here. 5 people, and they may not be here for the override. I would also suggest that there's a town election coming up on May 2nd. There's going to be 2 seats open on the Board of Selectmen, and one will not be filled through re-election. You know, Selectman Starzak has already stated, but if I'm incorrect, tell me, that you're not going to run for re-election. So there's going to be one position open, for sure. Why does that vote have to be taken tonight when the 2 people that are coming onto this board, whether re-elected or new, are not going to be held accountable for what's going on with the override? Why can't it be put off until that election is over and let those individuals vote? Personally, I'd like to know what their feelings are as far as budget, override, et cetera, before I voted. But again, don't understand it. What is the cost for a special election? Anybody know?
Approximately $5,000.
How much?
Approximately $5,000.
Okay. How will it be publicized?
Again, that's according to statute, pursuant to statute, how it's publicized. It will be publicized in the town hall, in the public library, on the access channel. We will have it on the town's website. It will be in the newspaper.
And we've
Okay.
even gotten a electronic bulletin board in front
Correct.
of the town hall.
Correct. We do utilize that quite often.
Some of you heard this story. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was a May budget, was passed in 2 minutes, $32 million budget was passed in 2 minutes. Later that night, there was a 20-minute discussion, 20 minutes plus, on how to promote town meeting and trying to get an authorization for a couple of $1,000s. Why can't that be done again? Why can't some signs be put up all over town?
We do, sir. We do.
Haven't seen them.
We do.
The town clerk has, I've seen them.
We absolutely do.
Have they been up at the intersection by Price Chopper? I haven't seen those.
We
I
do.
believe they were at the
Yes.
intersection by 16 and Lower Gore as well. I've seen them around
For
town.
for this last, for
Absolutely.
the last town?
Yes,
Then I stand corrected.
yes.
Then I haven't seen them, doesn't mean they weren't there. But I think more has to be done. Banners across the road, signage, whatever. If you want people to show up. If you don't want people to show up, then it's business as usual. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Can I just, I just want to make sure that it's clear that the meeting, I don't want any issues, the meeting that was held on Thursday was properly posted. I just want to make sure we make that clear. It was properly posted by both the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen. So, and I do understand your comments, absolutely. The election itself, I feel having the election, that's the purest form of the democratic process that there is let the people decide, put it to the people, and that's what something like this would do. And again, putting it in a menu option such as this is the people, no, I don't want to spend my money on this, but you know what, I am willing to spend the $6 on a highway worker. This allows them the opportunity and the flexibility to make their own decision and decide what they want their money spent on. Again, just to be clear, we have a balance. The proposed budget, fiscal 17, is currently balanced. If this override, if none of these pieces pass, we will go forward on June 6th with that budget. That is understood. The school committee posted their budget on or about February 28th on their website. It's been available since then to view. I posted the town's budget on March 21st. It's on the town administrator's page. It has been available for view since then. I posted the draft 1 budget. It's been updated with the draft 2 budget. And once the actual proposed budget is complete, that will be on the town administrator's page also. But as I stated at the meeting on Thursday, there will be no material changes. The budget is balanced. I agree with you, getting the information out is very important. We plan on, at the May 2nd election, we will have something set up in the foyer about the May 18th election. If the selectmen so choose to call for that special election, we will. And I will hear any suggestion you have with regard to getting the information out to voters, sir. And if it's in my power to do that and an appropriation is available, I will do that.
I've made numerous suggestions as far as just to get the message out. And solely relying on the town website, which is inconsistent as far as whether the information is there or it's not. I downloaded today your budget, the revised budget. I've downloaded the school committee budget and looked at that. You know, I'm trying to get the information, but I still find it disturbing that, again, who's here on an issue like this, talking about Prop 2.5? No. I don't come down to the town hall. You can post every sign from wall to wall. I don't come down here on a regular basis. I don't. You know? And I'm on the other side of town. I've missed the signs that have been there. I'm not trying to be a pain, but I think if you want people to support what you're doing, and you want that support. I voted new school, I voted for Bay Path education because I believe that education is important, even though I have none of my family, kids, grandkids, will ever attend those schools. But I believe in education. But I also believe in living within your means. And I think there's got to be a way. There's got to be a creative way. Signed up all over the place. And then if people don't come out tough, then it's their own fault what they get. But I think it's valuable for the town to be proactive to try and get support and get people to vote and understand what the issues are.
I couldn't agree more with regards to people being informed. I think fortunately we have a member of the press here tonight, and a lot of people will be informed in the morning through reading the paper of the conversation. That's not the ideal way of communicating, and I agree that there are certain things that can be, I think, enhanced to get the word out. But no matter what we put out for the word, it doesn't mean that this room's going to be full of people. That's just the way it is today. With regard to living within the budget, the facts are, I think, as you said, I think, in fact, we had an email exchange last year when I was running for selectman about the cost of taxes going up, 35% increase. I don't dispute that. The problem is I've been on a building committee for, I think, coming up on 8 years now. We had a 1967 vintage police and fire station. They only last so long. So it comes down to you have to start replacing capital items, and those cost money. And I know we live within the means, and we do. Right now, you'll see a balanced budget. But a new middle school, a new library coming online, a new police station, a refurbished fire station, what's going to happen with the water? We keep saying about issues with our water. We have to, unfortunately, spend some money now to fix the water problem, which is not necessarily as much of our issue as one of nature. We have to take care of the water coming out of the ground before we put it in the pipes. If we don't do that, if we don't filter the water first, it's just going to deposit more iron, magnesium, what have you, in the pipes. So that's a preventative type matter. The problem is, too, deferred maintenance. I mean, the Prop 2.5 only allows for current things to be taken care of. Deferred maintenance goes out, out the window, unfortunately, until you have debt overrides, until you have a possibility of a Prop 2.5 override. I agree with the acting town administrator. To me, you put your best arguments forward. At the meeting that occurred on last Thursday, everyone in the room agreed we need more police on the streets, that we would be much improved downtown if we had another beat officer on the Main Street and elsewhere. But the limits of Prop 2.5 and our growth in our town don't allow that extra money. That's just the truth. And this then gives, I think, the democratic process gives the town members, the town citizens, an opportunity to decide to spend the money or not.
Don't disagree with any of that, not one iota. However, if I were to wake up tomorrow morning and read the paper and find out that there's going to be an election in 35 days for $1 million override, okay, I don't think you're doing yourself a favor by ramming it down the voters' throats in that way. Because even if all the good things that you're talking about are good, they're going to resent it. I resent it.
But I would respectfully disagree with ramming it down people's throats when we have the time between now and the election to put information out. 3 of these items are extremely specific. One of those items is not specific on what we have in front of us, but was very specific at the meeting we had last Thursday. And I think it's incumbent on the town to put the information out between now and then. It's not a matter of anyone trying to ram anything down anyone's throats. There's time to put the information out and people to learn and people to make a decision.
If this special election, it's going to be special, was put off for a week or 2 weeks to get that information out, what's the harm?
Again, if I can address the timing, please. The reason why is this will then, June 6th, we will adjourn the annual town meeting to June 6th. As you said, the election last year didn't take place till the middle of June. That was scurry time. We had town meeting June 29th.
I was there.
And every single budget-related article had to have an emergency preamble. That is not a way to do business. It is just not. I have been in this business for 30 years. That is not a way to do business. That was scrambling. We are trying to be, this time, we are trying to be more focused. This is what we're doing. Here's the timeline. This makes sense. Instead of scrambling last minute to get everything done. I didn't think that was at all a way for that process to be handled last year.
Well,
At all.
At least there was a public hearing in April to talk about Prop 2.5 override and the issues that were there and why. That was there last year. It doesn't sound like it's gonna be here this year.
Well, we didn't say, I don't think we said that, though. I don't think we said that there wasn't going to be,
In fact, I asked about a public hearing. I don't think we've
Right.
taken any votes on that.
No.
Well, to be fair, the school committee is having theirs tomorrow night.
tomorrow night.
So at least for their budget, which isn't really expressed here in this first item, you know, I would hope that the other three are kind of self-explanatory as to where the town side of the budget's using the funding. So,
But again, last thing I'll say, and get out of here, is I got notification in December from our federal government on Social Security, and my Social Security went up nothing. So whatever you do, increase it 2.5, increase Prop 2.5, and it's an override, I've got to find that money. Okay? Can I find that money this year? Yeah, probably. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when this is a permanent tax, this isn't a one-time tax, it's permanent,
Correct.
all right? What am I gonna do? Who do I come to see if I ever reach the point that I can't pay my taxes? Who do I come to see? I have to lose my house, I have to sell my house because I can't afford it.
But it's not up to this board. We are not going to raise taxes. It would be the members of the community that are going to decide whether or not this passes. It's not 5 of us that are going to do it. It's going to be the community. So if you feel that a 2.5 override isn't best for you, then you vote against it. You have to vote the way you feel. You know, and if it passes, we all have to live with it. My taxes are going to go up, yours will, Mr. Becker's, everyone's will. And that's just the way it is, majority rule. You know, we have no say. We were asked to bring this forth, to put it out for a bid for an election by the school committee. They're trying to better the school system, and they want to do things that they, you know, that they want to do with this money, that they feel that's really going to help out the school system. And at the same time, I personally believe we could use some more police officers in town. I believe the town is more like a city than a town now. So, you know, that's something I would like to see. But, you know, someone else may not see my views and may vote against it. So it's up to majority rule. It's not up to us whether or not this passes. And we all have to live with it.
And I appreciate that. The only thing I would ask for you to consider is somehow doing a stronger job, better job, something to publicize what these issues are, whether it be town meetings, special elections, whatever, to get the vote out and get the people informed as far as what's going on. That's really all. That's my whole agenda. That's my whole agenda.
Well, I'm sure Ms. Regis will do her best for the town. Will do her best for the town items. It's going to be up to the school department to inform everyone, you know, why they want X number of dollars and what they want to use it for. And if they do not do a good job doing that, it won't pass.
But I mean, I
So
have
it's
no,
going to be up to them.
I'm sorry, I have no problem asking that this be continued on our next agenda item. That'll give ample notice for more questions. If the proper venue is a public hearing at part of our selectmen's meeting, I have no problem with that either. That's up to the chair. But we can certainly get the word out by having another meeting and putting it on the agenda if you believe and The chairman believes that more information should be available, but I think it's incumbent on the school committee to do their part. And Mr. Starzyk, I think, is right. He said that it's going to be done tomorrow, so.
So Pam, what would the timeline be if we put off a week and did a public hearing?
Would
Well,
that mess
actually,
up-
it
would
would
that
have to
mess
be-
up the budget?
It would have
That's
to
the
be 2
question.
weeks, so how much would that throw a monkey wrench into everything? It would have to be 2 weeks, because
Right.
we're not here next Monday.
You could
So then-
vote it and still have public hearings
Yes,
after
you
you
could.
vote
Right,
it.
if we,
know.
right, which would be my recommendation at this point.
And we do have a motion and a
Right,
second
on the-
on the floor.
Is there any other discussion in regards to the Prop 2.5 special election?
All set? Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzyk?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dogevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bore?
Yes. Now,
And I guess I'd make a motion to have a public hearing as part of our next selectmen's meeting to specifically discuss the override vote.
Second.
a motion's been made and seconded. Do we want to do that on the 25th, Pam, at 6?
We can?
Is everyone okay with that?
And just to ask Mr. Becker, that would be for our articles,
For
not
our
the school
portion of it.
department.
Correct.
Not the school department, so it would be the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
I will have the fire chief, the police chief here, I will have the fire chief here, I will have the highway superintendent here. We can put together some statistics and, again, this is very specific. We are a service-oriented organization. We want to provide the best service to our residents, and these specific items are specific to that. These are all service. This is not purchasing a piece of equipment or enhancing someone's, expense budget. This is all directly related to service to our residents.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd just make one comment to thank, is it Mr. Whitelaw? I just wanted to thank you for coming up and providing the information. Appreciate that.
A motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Would it make sense while we're doing our public hearing, if we vote to do the public hearing on our override items, would it also make sense to see if Dr. Malkus or Mr. Avlis would be available to attend that evening, should any questions arise pertaining to their portion of the request?
Quite honestly, I think we'd have to start at 5.
It's hard because they're having their meeting tomorrow and you don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. Why don't they need to get the word out themselves?
Correct. I understand what you're saying about them needing to get their word out, but if we're going to provide a venue for a public hearing dealing with Proposition 2.5, even though we're going to be having information presented on the municipal side, it may be beneficial to have somebody from the school department there, because somebody's inevitably going to come up with a question regarding any of the items that we're proposing on the ballot.
So not necessarily to do presentation, but to be available here to answer any
Correct.
questions if they
Probably
do
just
come
one of them
up.
is a liaison. I mean, even if it's a
Yeah.
member of the school committee, they
Yeah.
probably can know.
That way
I can
somebody
ask
can
her
clarify.
if someone can be in attendance, if that's what the board wants.
Was anyone asked from the board to go to their meeting tomorrow night about
No.
R3?
Again, their hearing tomorrow night is for their entire budget.
Mm-hmm.
So it's their budget public hearing, the entire budget.
But I do agree with Mr. Jola that makes sense, to have someone here. It is an override vote. And it might show up as 4 separate items, is that what I understand? But I think it's incumbent on us as selectmen to ask them to come here.
We'll make sure of that. And also, the Finance Committee, pursuant to the charter, will be holding their public hearing on the budget on Thursday, May 5th, at 7 PM here in this room. So they will also be holding a public hearing on the budget. And we'll get that information out. We'll, Greg, we can send out some Facebook and some Twitter, whatever you do, and this blast and that blast, I know nothing about. That's what we have Greg for, so.
I think the message here is the more communication, the better.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? Yeah.
One more, huh? Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Uh-oh. Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Dolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dogevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.
Motion
No,
to adjourn?
no, does this need to be read? No?
I don't know that if it does or not.
Well,
You know what, why don't we read it, just in
You wanna
case,
read it?
so we cover ourselves?
Yes.
I am not sure. Do you want me to
That's
do
a
it
Wednesday.
quickly,
No,
Mr. Chairman?
He's gonna do it.
Okay.
Hold on. Wednesday?
It's Wednesday.
All right.
Just, I'm sorry, Selectman Starzak, it should
Sure.
be Wednesday, the
Yeah,
18th of May.
I'm penciling that in now.
Okay.
Town warrant, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. To either of the constables of the town of Webster and the county aforesaid, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby required and directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Webster aforesaid who are qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet in the auditorium, so-called Municipal Building, 350 Main Street, in said Webster on Wednesday, the 18th day of May 2016, at 7 o'clock in the forenoon, then and there to act on the following articles to wit. Shall the town of Webster be allowed to assess an additional $738,000 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the Webster Public Schools for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016? Shall the town of Webster be allowed to assess an additional $112,000 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding 2 additional full-time police officers for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016? Shall the town of Webster be allowed to assess an additional $99,000 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding fire station coverage between the hours of 12 a.m. and 7 a.m., Sunday through Saturday, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016? Lastly, shall the town of Webster be allowed to assess an additional $46,000 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding 1 additional highway position for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016. All polls close at 8 o'clock in the evening, and you are directed to serve this warrant by publishing an attested copy thereof in a newspaper published within the town of Webster at least 7 days preceding the election. Hereof fail not, and make due return of your doings thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of holding said meeting. Given under our hands this 11th day of April in the year 2016, Webster Board of Selectmen. Boom.
Well done.
Better watch out, Mr. Craver.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? And pull the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Dolda?
Yes.
Selectman Dogevich?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.